Hello everybody, today I'm going to discuss The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost, which is of course quite a famous name in the world of literature and needs no introduction, and similarly this poem as well needs no introduction or say is well known in the literary world and is in the course of several schools and colleges. So all the students who have undergone their schoolings or undergraduate courses, they definitely must have gone through this poem. Now, if I talk of the structure of this poem, so as you can see, I've written some features here. The poet has used enjambment here. Enjambment means the run-on lines. So the poet is using run-on lines, and the run-on lines actually add to the rhythm and rhyme of the poem, and moreover show the continuation of or the fluency of thoughts and ideas. So that is how we use enjambment, and it is one feature of this poem. At several places in the stanzas you may find that the poet hasn't used much of punctuation, many of punctuation marks, right? So just here and there we find some comma or semicolon. Otherwise, the poet hasn't used much, or the poet hasn't made much use of, say, these punctuation marks. Now, as far as the rhyme scheme is concerned, you can see it is A B A A B. That is the rhyme scheme used, and there are 4 stanzas, each of 5 lines. Now the meter, as far as the meter is concerned, the poet has used iambic and anapaestic tetrameter. Now in iambic meter, what we do, it is the pattern of unstressed and stressed syllables, and in anapaestic it is 2 unstressed and 1 stressed. So that's how the pattern goes. In iambic, as I said, it is actually 1 unstressed and 1 stressed. In anapaestic, it is 2 unstressed and 1 stressed. So that is the pattern of these two meters, like iambic meter and anapaestic meter. And they are, the poet here is using actually tetrameter, iambic tetrameter, and same with anapaestic tetrameter. The poem is a reflective poem, and to tell you about the history or the background, actually, to be more precise, so the background is the poet's friend Edward Thomas, who was an English Welsh poet. So he used to say that if I had done this, I would have been this or that. Had I taken that decision or had I taken that path, I would have been somewhere else. So he would always say such things and then sigh about that and feel sorrowful about those things. So this poem is actually to make fun of his friend, to poke fun at him. That was the purpose behind this. But yes, this involves a truth of life, uh, really a great truth, the truth that is accepted by all, we can say, because in everybody's life we come across a crossroad or a forked road or a diversion in the roads, and there we have to take decisions, and the decision that we take makes all the difference. Now here the poet doesn't say that the difference is good or bad. It's up to the decision maker, it's up to the reader, it's up to the one who goes to or who chooses a certain road, and then he comes across that say diverse road or the bifurcated road, and then has to make a decision. So it's up to that person. He only presents his claim or his view of that situation, and also makes us face to face with that kind of situation and makes us think about that what happens when such kind of situations, we are faced with such kind of situations, and what actually is the result, what actually is the consequence. And this is, as I said, a common tendency. But the poet says that that we don't have to sigh for that, but people generally do, because actually whatever way you take, the result will always be the same the later, because it is like what it is, like distant drums sound well. So we always find that yes, it is good there on the other side. So that is the human nature, and that's what he is talking of. So let's see how the poet has expressed such a beautiful idea here in this beautiful poem. So the poet says, two roads diverged in a yellow wood. Now, why this yellow color? This yellow color too has a certain significance, because this is in sync with the mood of the poem. Now we can say that why he hasn't chosen spring season or winter season, why he has chosen this yellow color, because it depicts that mood, that is autumn. Now spring is full of freshness and activity and vitality and liveliness, whereas winter denotes what depth and inactivity. So it denotes that. But autumn season, which is about dullness and shows a bit of indecision, so the mood is of indecision, that what to do, what not to do kind of situation. So to mark that or to show that indecision, the poet has used yellow color to denote autumn season. So two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not take both. Of course, that you are there, and there you come across, bifurcated road. You come across a crossroads. You see that a road is having two forks, and then you are in a kind of fix now, where to go, what road to take. So two roads diverged in a yellow wood. So it is, the poet is there in front of such a situation, and sorry, I could not travel both. So it's quite natural that you cannot travel on both the roads. If you have two roads before you, you cannot travel both the roads. And be one traveler, long I stood. So of course, be one traveler, you are the only one, you have two roads before you. How can you travel both the roads? So the poet stood there for long and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. So as he was one and the roads were two, now the point was, the problem was what road to take and which direction to go, where to go. So in a kind of bewildered situation, all nonplussed and puzzled, the poet just looked at that, stood there for long, watching the road, and finally the poet saw that road vanished under some undergrowth, some bushes or thickets. The road vanished, all disappeared. And now here you can also mark the rhyme scheme. As I pointed out, it is A, B, A, A, B. So that is the rhyme scheme here. You can see would first, then both. So A and B, then stood and could, again A, and undergrowth, again B. So that is what the poet has done here, and not just in this stanza, in all the stanzas this rhyme scheme goes on. So now the second. Then took the other as first one. The one the poet discarded disappeared in the undergrowth. So as just as fair, and having perhaps the better clan. So what? Then the poet chose to take the other road. As just as fair, it seemed to be all perfect, all square, all justified, no problem at all perfect. And having perhaps what? The better clan. So it seemed that promising the road in front of him. One, the poet said, okay, it all disappeared. The other, which was there, seemed to be promising, lucrative, good, because it was grassy and wanted wear. So the road was full of grass. Nobody perhaps had chosen that road, or it was wanted wear because it was not worn out. People hadn't treaded trodden that road. So the poet thought, what though as for that the passing there had warned them really about the same. But after choosing that road, or after walking over that road, after treading that road, that path also became like the other one. Because until you don't walk over it, it is okay, pure, perfect, original, and clean. But once you uh, tread over that, then what? It is like the other one. So that's what he is saying. First, it seemed all promising. It was grassy. It was not trodden by anybody. But then, once you go over that, it was similar. It was just like the other one. So that's what he is saying. Though as for the passing there had warned them really about the same. So now it's like what, both the roads and paths become the same, just equal. Now in both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black. So the morning, when the poet has to choose the road, when poet has to go in that one particular direction. So what, they were equal, like just before the poet, they lay all equally, and untrodden. What, leaves no step had trodden black. It means none had walked over them. The leaves uncrampled, we can say, untrodden, all as they had fallen from the trees. So as it is the month of autumn, so the leaves are falling. The leaves fallen from the trees have covered the roads. So no steps had trodden black. It means they were untrampled and uncrumpled. They were lying as they had fallen from the trees, lying as it is. Oh, I kept the first for another day. So the first one I kept for another day, that okay, I'll someday in future I'll come back and then I'll walk over that one. Yet knowing how way leads on to way. Yes, this is what happens in our life. Once you take a decision, once you choose a path, then what? It connects to the other, to the other, and to the other. Yes, it's like chains linking from one to the other, and you move from one to the other. It's like that. You are in 10th class, you choose a subject, then you move on to the other class, 11th and 12th, like 11th standard, you choose science or maths, and then what, after completing your 12th class, you move in that particular direction. It means what, once you have chosen something, then you have to go in that particular direction and you cannot go back. So this is what happens in everybody's life, that once you take a decision, then you move in that particular direction. As I gave you an example, you opt for science, then you don't come back and choose something else. So it is like it goes on and on and on. It is like that. The chains connect, the dots connect. So the poet says, yet knowing how way leads on to way. So he knew this very well, that the ways connect, the dots connect, the paths connect. And what, I doubted if I should ever come back. So of course he was suspicious. He doubted that he won't be able to come back. He knew it that time, that moment, that perhaps he won't be able to come back. He won't be able to tread on that path. So it won't be perhaps possible for him. So that's what he, I shall be telling this with a sigh. Sometimes, somewhere, ages and ages hence. The poet is trying to say that perhaps somewhere, ages and ages hence. So after years, centuries later, perhaps I'll talk about this with a sigh, because this is what happens with people, that in future sometime you feel, oh, I should have done that at that time, I should have not chosen this particular thing, I should have chosen that thing, I should have opted for that career, I should have opted for that subject. So that kind of things generally happen to people, as I said earlier as well, that the distant drums sound well. So yes, they always seem fascinating, they always attract you, they are always charming, and you feel that I should have done this or that. So that's what the poet is saying, that in future, perhaps I would say with a sigh, heaving, and that yes, what somewhere ages and ages, years later, perhaps I would say, two roads diverge in a wood, and I, yes, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. So yes, perhaps I would say that there were two roads before me. The road bifurcated before me, there was a crossroad, and I took the one, I chose the one less traveled by, that was less frequented by people, less used by people. I chose that one, and that has made all the difference. That has led me to a position or a situation where I am. So that's what the poet is trying to say, that whatever you choose, that makes all the difference, whether this or that, the choice you make. Now whatever choice it may be, that takes you to a certain position in your life. Now there you may regret that if I had done that, I would have been somewhere else. But now in such a situation, it doesn't matter at all. You can only grieve and feel sorry about that. So the poet says it's no use feeling sorry. It is a situation that you are faced with once in your life, but it's no use regretting or feeling sorry about that. The decision you take in your life, that makes all the difference, and one needs to accept that. The poet doesn't make a judgment here that whether it is good or bad, but he says, yes, this is what the human being feel when they are in such a situation, that later sometime in their life they have such kind of feeling. So that's what the poet is saying. So a beautiful poem, just conveying the truth of human life, and something that can be acknowledged by anybody and everybody in this world. So I think you might have understood this poem, and it's very much clear. The structure I have already discussed earlier, that the poet has used run-on lines, that is enjambment in the exactly literary term, and then the poet has used iambic and anapaestic meter. The rhyme scheme is ABAAB, and there are four stanzas, each with 5 lines. The poem is a reflective poem. So this is all we can say about the structure of the poem, and I have already explained each and every line here, each and everything here. So now, okay, bye. I'll come with more such poems and things. So keep watching, stay tuned. Till then, thank you very much.